Today, this is Josh Patrick, and you're cracking the cash flow code. And my guest today is Paul Lesure. I hope I pronounced his last name properly. I usually massacre them. I am really excited to have Paul on our show today. He's the CEO of Vermont Solar, and his company puts solar on our house. And during the process, I was just unbelievably impressed with the sales process. Now, as you folks know, I do a lot of coaching with people in the construction world, and I have never, never seen a sales process that even comes close to as good as what Paul does. So I'm going to bring Paul on and stop talking so you can hear from him how he developed that. Hey, Paul, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for
Paul,
having me.
oh, my pleasure. So, I've been teaching people for years how to do sales in the blue collar world, specifically construction folks. And you are doing literally everything that I have ever told somebody to do. So, how did you figure that out?
Sure. So, actually, one thing to jump in with at the start, you said we were Vermont Solar. We're actually Green Mountain
Oh,
Solar.
I'm sorry. Boy, I've
That's okay.
been getting your name wrong all the time, and I really apologize. I even wrote it down.
The two are so synonymous in the state, we get it on occasion. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, how did the sales process come about? Not to make it too simplistic, but I guess it started with a customer first kind of mentality. My goal has always been to deliver the best customer experience, and part of that is communication. No matter how smoothly you run operationally, it's about keeping people in the loop on where they are in the process, so that they have an understanding. We never want people to feel in the dark. And so we work across our entire teams from the initial lead intake to sales to project management to installation to make sure that communication is going on so people feel part of the team, and kind of almost part of the GMS family, not to be too cliche with that. um, so that's been just years of experience, really, of honestly, to say falling down before. Sometimes we learn from our biggest mistakes. And so talking with customers where things have gone wrong has also really helped us improve. We still have things that we don't do right, but I think honestly owning those issues and then seeing how you can fix the process will only make us better and deliver experiences like yours.
So the thing that I'm really interested in is that I know that this stuff never happens by mistake, and I know it doesn't happen without a tremendous amount of follow up and coaching to go for many years actually to get to where it just happens. So, who in your organization is responsible for managing the sales and the customer service process? Do you have a person that does that?
So, as president and one of the founders of the company, that's largely been me. Um, it started out with just over 5 years ago with more or less me at my kitchen table, and so I was literally responsible for everything. Um, as we started to grow and we hired new and different people, you know, it was instilling that same ethic into everything we do. I know it's not a vision or a mission statement, but our goal is to deliver the best customer experience. And so, really kind of hammering that home with everyone who joins the team. And again, that's from the person who's, our receptionist who may be taking the initial phone call to our sales team, to our project team on how each one of those will matter to each individual customer and at each point of the process.
So I'm going to get into the weeds just a little bit here. And if I'm too far in the weeds, let me know, Paul. What sort of technology do you use to follow up to make sure that follow ups happen when they're supposed to happen?
Boy, Um, so, as a 5-year-old company, technology is something we are quickly trying to adopt. Um, so we have plenty of methods of tracking things. So we have our CRM, which logs and tracks emails, so we can see those communications. We have a project management tool that we built through Excel. Nothing really fancy, but that knows our internal steps of the process. So we can say, okay, here are the various milestones that we need to make sure we go through and the boxes we need to check to assure we're executing the project internally right. But then some of those are flagged as also key communication milestones. So we know, okay, we got the deposit on a project. Reach out to the customer and let them know because they sent us a check. They're going to want to know we have that. Or hey, we have um, we've achieved all the permitting steps. We should let the customer know that because now we're transitioning into moving to a schedule process. Hey, we finished your project. We should let the customer know that. They may be home and they may have seen it, but they should know what the next steps are to finalizing everything and being, completely done. Um, So it's nothing high tech. It's just really knowing the steps in the process. And then again, over time, figuring out where people want that communication and then templating that to some extent too of, okay, here's the ideal communication within those sectors and what people need to know.
Boy, it sounds like you have a great system. I would love after this, I might give you a couple of tools to make your life a little bit easier. For those who are listening, what Paul just described using an Excel spreadsheet, there's two programs which we love that will do that in a more elegant manner. One is Monday and the other is ClickUp, which are really good project management tools. Paul, have you ever heard of a methodology called Scrum?
Yes.
Because, with
Um,
what, go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm not super familiar, but that's where you start to pull your whole team together to diagnose problems. And am I correct?
Well, it's more than diagnose problems. It's sort of saying, how much work can we get done in a week? What is the velocity we're doing at? You have a short daily stand-up meeting where you talk about, are we on track or where do I need trouble or need help? And at the end of a sprint, which could be 1, 2, or 3 weeks, you do what's called a retrospective, and you go back and you look at the work you've done and you say, gee, what really went well and how can we improve that? What didn't go so well and what can we do to correct it? And then you get to ask what I call the three magic questions, which everybody in the sprint group has to answer. And question one is, what did you love about the last sprint? Question two is, what did you hate about the last sprint? And question three is, what would have to be different for what you hated to become something that you love? And I get my clients that do that question, but they don't do it consistently enough. But if you do it every single sprint, and I had a vetting and food service company, we actually did a similar thing, which I sold 25 years ago. But it is really, I call it the magic question because what we're doing is by doing that, we're putting our frontline people in the role of the expert. And in my world, they're the experts at the job. And I need to be asking them how their job can be better, not telling them what they need to be doing. Does that make sense to you?
That makes total sense. We do not run such a structured process, I'll tell you that, but I fully believe in that people know their jobs. A lot of people come and tell me how successful I've been and what we've been good at. And I think it's all about my team. It's finding people who are team players, who want to really know, learn, and improve their job, take ownership for their job, and help us move forward. And then I'm always willing to hear new ideas. Not to say that everyone's going to be a success, but when you have that communication going, also internally, it definitely leads to process improvement.
Oh, no question. One of my heroes in the world of management is a guy named W. Edwards Deming, who was a quality control guru that went to Japan and made um, well, I'll just keep doing that. Who was really good at coming up with strategies for process improvement. And one of his things is making work visible. And it sounds like you do a pretty good job of that, where your people know what they have to do, they see it, and they can track it. And another one of my stupid little sayings is what gets measured gets done. So if I put, big signs up of what's going on and what our key metrics are for moving our company forward, I don't have to do anything except post them and they're going to get 10% better. Now, I can do things to make it better than 10%, but just posting it makes it better all by itself.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. We talk about key metrics all the time, and I'm not metric crazy, but I think you need to find you know those key things to your business, whether it be your sales close rate, your lead conversion rate, or the time from start to finish on certain projects, and shine a light on them. Because if you're not paying attention and you're not measuring, how do you know where to improve?
Yeah, and
Um,
typically for most companies, it's not like, 100 measurements, it's 6 to 8 as a rule. And if you have more than 10, you're probably being in the weeds way too much. You should be looking at higher numbers that drive your business, not, all sorts of stupid little things that don't really mean anything.
yes, uh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's some metrics I've seen over my career that you're just like, does that really help? And you don't want,
Yeah,
I think like you're getting it, you don't want the process measurement to take away from the time that you invest in the actual process, right?
right.
If you're spending so much time on just measuring what you're doing, maybe you should spend that time on improving it. Um, so yeah, you got to find that balance.
I want to take a
So
little,
we try to measure
okay.
key things along that process. Again, we can see time from a project is signed to when a folder is submitted, time from a folder submitted to when we submit it for permitting. Once we submit it for permitting, that's kind of out of our hands, but we know generally town to town when we get it back, so we can kind of set expectations with customers. And then we also always try to know what our pipeline length is, so we can establish that for our customer, because that's a key metric. We don't want to be telling people we'll install you in 2 months if we're really not going to get you to 5 months.
Yeah, and then one of the things about backlog, which is really important, is it tells you whether you need to add a crew, whether you need to reduce a crew, and whether you need to really get out there and work harder with your sales team because you don't have enough at bats that are being done to fill the pipeline. So it tells you, the pipeline is one of those predictive things. It's not on your balance sheet, it's not on your profit and loss statement. It's something that you have to track outside of it. And the truth is, if you're not doing that, you can have a really bad surprise and not know it's coming. It sounds like you are not in that position. You actually know what's coming down the road.
I try to pay attention because I've lived all those things. Where you start to see those, let's call them leading indicators, I think would be the correct term, of,
Yeah.
oh man, if my leads aren't coming in, I know then my sales are going to slow down, because I know my conversion rate, which means I know that my install cadence is going to slow down, which that means my revenue isn't going to be there, which is bad. and, you know and that cracking the cash flow code idea, if I'm not installing jobs, I don't really have cash flow, and that kills any business.
Well, that's about 90% of the thing. You know what you have to focus on and you get to focus on it. Now, there's two other things I want to talk with you about, and maybe we'll get to the third or fourth, but two I really want to talk about. One is you are really good at getting people who you've done an installation for to do a Google review. And I've been of the opinion recently that all of the work that local construction companies do to create customers, most of us a waste of time to create for marketing, to create awareness. The truth is, when you're looking for a solar array, you go to Google. And if you have the most reviews and the highest reviews, you're ranked at the top of the list, right under the ads, the paid ads. And you've done that incredibly well. So, is there anything else that you've found out that really works well for marketing besides your Google Ads strategy, which is excellent, by the way?
Thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, the reviews are key. And again, it comes to communication and feedback. It's, we're not just asking, everyone to just, hey, let's give us a review. We're having an honest communication ahead of that, of how things go, what they, what do you like? What do you not like? I'm sure you experienced that with the solar advisor you worked with, so that we're getting that honest assessment. And then obviously, if someone's like, oh man, you killed it, we love everything you did, we definitely push that part of our customer base towards a review. Um, but I think even more organically, if you think about the trade sector, a lot of people also just find out about home improvements by word of mouth. We're redoing our bathroom at home. I didn't Google a single person to do my bathroom. I knew someone who had redone their kitchen, and I knew someone who had put on an addition, and I knew someone who had done all these things. So I was getting that word of mouth from them to find my builders. And I think that works the same in the solar field. Like, yes, you can Google it, but if you're pleasing these people and showing honesty and integrity with them, they're going to do your work for you. If you're
Well,
upsetting people,
that's
they're
actually
going to take
how
people
we
in the
found you. So
yeah. I think we've done most of your street.
there's only one house
um,
left for you to do.
yeah, we're in conversations. Um, but I think that organic approach, yes, we get those Google comments, but it's that word of mouth that's valuable. And then we expand upon it with other things, being on the radio and being on social media and doing the pay per click, digital advertising, to really boost that. Um, because no
Well,
matter what you say about yourself, it's what other people say about you that matters.
no question about that. Testimonials are just really important. They give you all sorts of authority that you don't ever get by talking about yourself. And you're also putting your customers in the hero role when you do that, which is a really good thing to do, at least in my opinion. So, one of the things I noticed is that you have been kind of skirting around this word during our entire conversation. I just want to get your opinion about it. And the term is personal responsibility. You keep talking about we take responsibility. When things go wrong, we want to fix it. We want people who join our company who are into what we're doing and what we think. And that all sort of points to what I refer to as personal responsibility. Is that something you've thought about consciously in your company?
Yeah. I think at all levels of, let's just say, life, uh, ownership for your actions is great. And I'm sure we have a few customers out there who would be like, hypocrite. We can't please everyone. We're never going to agree with everyone, but doing the best you can at that and trying to work towards that, uh, um, it's all about trust. It's all about integrity. And those are the people we want in our lives, whether it is people or businesses. So, up and down, I try not to penalize people for making mistakes. Um, I try to internally, um, model that for people with, like, you can ask my staff of, like, there's times where they like, what went wrong? And I was like, I goofed that one up. So that then people are willing to go, hey, something's wrong. I goofed it up, because we can fix it. If you don't take that level of ownership and that level of accountability and you dust it under the rug, you're going to trip on that pile of stuff eventually. Um, and that's a real problem. Again, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We have people who we eventually just agree to disagree. Um, but a majority of the time, when you run into those problems and you address them and you work through it, you come to a reconciliation, and an understanding where not that you never wanted that problem to go wrong, but you've shown your honesty, your trust, your integrity, and you create that bond with a customer that is almost invaluable.
Yeah, almost everybody I've ever talked with, it starts at the top, and it was a hard lesson for me to learn. I was just a terrible boss when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I yelled at somebody every day, never took personal responsibility for it. It was always somebody else's fault. And when I finally started taking personal responsibility, the world started to change. Took a while, a long while, because I was like the enfant terrible. So, um, but at any rate, what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing, is that we're going to make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. Mistakes make us better as long as we raise our hands and say that. One of my, again,
Yeah.
I have many stupid sayings. Another one is bad news doesn't get better with age.
Yeah, my favorite, and I owe this to one of my managers in the past. This woman Tracy, who was great. She really worked with me on that accountability thing. Was it's the cover up that kills. We all make
Oh, I like
mistakes.
that. I like
We
that.
all, you know, no matter how hard you try, it's going to happen. But if you cover it up, you've now broken trust, and trust is far harder to fix than almost any mistake. And
I mean, again, I have a simple little formula for trust, which is reliability plus competence plus intimacy divided by self interest is how much you trust somebody. If trust goes away, it's almost always one of those four things. And typically in your world, it's reliability.
yeah,
Your industry as a reliable industry is not the best. And not talking about solar, I'm talking about the entire construction world. Too often contractors say they're going to do something and they don't deliver it, and their customers' trust goes right down. Now, what you guys do, which I think is tremendous, is we set an expectation, and because of supply chain issues, those expectations have to change a couple of times during the process, or they did with us.
especially the
Instead
last two
of,
years.
yeah, well, that's, part of what the industry is. But what your team is really good at doing is communicating that, hey, we have a problem and we're going to have to change your expectation. And because of that, I wasn't angry a little bit. So those folks listening, it's not about what you promise, it's about what you deliver, and what you deliver when you say you're going to. If you have to change, that's okay. As soon as you know it, just tell somebody.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think we all have been in our a place where what you thought you could do and what you can do, unfortunately, are different. There's outlying circumstances. We're all human. And again, this goes right back to what you said on communication is if I can walk you through that and say, okay, Josh, like we talked about this panel, unfortunately, the suppliers or due to the pandemic or whatever have completely removed that as an option. We're working through this. Here's what's next. Here's what we have for options, and here's how we want to do it. We just hope that everyone can be like understanding and accepting. Again, almost everyone's been in that role, so hopefully they're willing to work with you on that. And again, that's us taking ownership of like we talked about this, it's changed. Here's what we're doing. We're not trying to cover it up. We're trying to still offer you the best solution possible. We're just working in a new paradigm.
And that's the world of business today, and you just nailed it. Hey, Paul, unfortunately, we're out of time, so I'm going to bet that I hope some of our Vermonters who are listening will decide to hire you guys. But your leadership and your management strategy for your company is really exceptional. So, if folks wanted to have a
Thank you.
conversation with you, how would they go about doing that?
Sure. So you can reach us a couple different ways. For all you people who love the web, it is greenmtnsolar.com. Notice we abbreviate mountain. Um, you can also call and actually get a real person by phone. So that's 802 369 9149. And we have wonderful people who are willing to talk to you and what your needs are and help find the right solution.
Cool. And I have two things I would like you to do. The first I've asked, I think, 375 times now, which is wherever you're listening to this podcast, please give us an honest rating and review. And while you're at it, just hit that little button that says subscribe. We're on all the places you can get podcasts. We're on Apple and Spotify and a zillion other places. So wherever you're listening, just rate us and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. The second is I've been writing a newsletter now for something like 45 years, and for the last 18 years, it's been electronic, comes out every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. It's really easy to get. You just go to www.sustainablebusiness.co/newsletter. Give me your first name and your email address, and you're on the list. And next Tuesday at 9 o'clock, you'll get your own copy. And again, that address is www.sustainablebusiness.co/newsletter. This is Josh Patrick. We're with Paul Lesure. You're at Cracking the Cashflow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here